Wow! Liquid Schwartz!
Regular
What?
stuff.
Welcome back to Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. I am Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth, and master of the Schwartz, godfather of merchandising. As per usual, I'm here at Magnum Mills and the Soup Deuce to talk about stuff that we've watched. Our featured review this week is none other than the Mel Brooks classic, Spaceballs. Soup, right off the bat, you have to make a huge decision here. Do you want the space soup or the space special?
Yeah, the guy digs me. Hey, what's wrong with this guy? I don't know. Bring him some water. Water my ass. Bring this guy some Pepto-Bismol. Waitress. What did he order?
Oh, he had a special.
That's what I ordered. I changed my order to the soup. Good move.
Well, normally it would be a tough decision anyway. Depending on what the special is, I'd order the soup. It depends on what they are, but, not knowing what they are, I would be like, let me go with the special, That turns out to where it might not be the best decision, because, who knows what could happen when you eat a special, dude, and I don't want that happening again. So today I'm going to take the soup, and I am the soup, and, well, you regular dudes watch stuff, but tonight you can call me the lone soup if you want.
Oh, is that the lone soup with two P's? Is it the two P's like a Lone Star has the two
Throw an
R's?
extra P on there, yeah, there.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I'm Magnum Mills, the man with two M's. And really, I say you get the special and the soup, right? And then you dip the special into the soup. That's how you do it. I got a whole Dunkin' situation thing going on here, but that's how I do it. And that's how we do it here on a special space edition of Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. Thank you for checking us out. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We are on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Same thing on the World Wide Web, dudeswatchstuff.com. We are there. Really easy, simple to remember, just like the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. Winnebagos aren't kept in the air flying through space by magic. It is the flaps that keeps them there. So if you give us that thumb, it helps us stay in the sky. We really appreciate it. Please and thank you.
Before we can go looking for Planet Spaceball, we need to comb the desert for these holes in this house. Holes in this house. There's some holes in this house. So what have you been filling your holes with most recently?
Over the past, since our last episode, I have not had a whole lot of time to fill my holes with a lot of media. I've been filling my holes with a lot of, my job and whatnot. So aside from that, which I'm not going to get into, I will say that I am currently caught up on Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is in the final season, and the finale is actually tonight, and I'm looking forward to that. And it has been a banger of a season, man, and definitely, very satisfied with what's been happening so far, and looking forward to how we finishes this one out, man. So, other than being, keeping up with Curb, I also was able to, start messing around with the DraftKings Sportsbook, because now in the state I live in, we're allowed to do that. Yes, times they are changing. I started making small bets on some things that I don't really know about, just randomly, just to, kind of test the waters and whatnot. And it's pretty complex. There's a lot going on there. Apparently you can bet on anything, So, as of now, I probably spent about $5 and I'm up like $20, So it's a good start. And, once football season rolls around, I know a little bit about, more about what I'm doing. Then it'll get a lot more interesting for me. But, testing the waters right now with some of the other stuff. And, I like it. I think it's going to be a nice addition to, to every sporting event that's out there, and it'll probably keep me interested in more sporting events other than football. So, looking forward to continuing with that, and looking forward to hopefully winning.
So it sounds like you absolutely need to subscribe to Bet It, Bank It, Blow It, and Jamie G's Play of the Day, because we will get you right with all your sports betting needs.
And also be careful, because it sounds like right now you're filling a hole, but if you're not careful, you could be creating a new hole that you have to fill. And I mean,
That's
especially
true.
if you have
Yes,
just a
I
deep
do
black
that.
heart like
That
mine or
responsibly.
whatever, there's a lot of
careful
holes to fill. The
not
wall in
to,
itself can
not
be a
to
hole.
dig
So
hole.
you don't want to have too many holes.
Yeah, when you're playing, when you're, it is gambling, so there's the ups and downs. But right, hey, I got to be careful not to dig holes. I get it. This plan. trying to feel it out right now, before I'm sure once, September rolls around, I'll probably go a little heavier, but, whatever, you live and you learn. It's what it is. Other than that, I've been missing football, so I've been jamming on my Madden mobile, man, and that's about all.
I love that you play video games on your phone. Last video game I played on my phone was when it was a flip phone. It was phone bowling. I did really enjoy the phone bowling, though. I dropped like a whole $5 on it or whatever. It was pretty awesome. I really enjoyed that. I am actually keeping up with the curve. I am current on that. In super minor spoiler, but Larry David is going all the way with it. The curve finale is going to somehow have a trial involved, most famously like the Seinfeld finale. So there's a lot that could happen there. I'm very curious to see where that goes. Like the soup, I have enjoyed the 12th season, so very cool stuff there. And, if you haven't watched it now, don't worry. I don't know, maybe you could get a little quote-unquote spoiled by the finale, but it's a comedy show. It's kind of hard to get spoiled on it, so don't worry about it too much. Go back, check it out if you haven't missed it. Feel free to start with season 2 if you want. I am current on Shogun. That's FX, Hulu. Already talked about that a bunch. Really enjoying that one. We'll talk about it more when we get towards the end a little bit. Another one it's really complex. It's been compared to Game of Thrones, so I'd be here all day talking about it. So just saying it's out there, especially if you have Hulu. There's an English dub. If the subtitles are a little bit too much for you, go ahead, check it out. Super awesome. And I've been watching a few things that I finished up. First off, the one that's not airing currently is The Shield. This is from FX. Watch it on Hulu. Man, this is a ride. Definitely an underrated show. Maybe got slept on because when it ended was kind of right when a lot of other stuff was going on. Started kind of right after 9/11, so it was in a little bit of a weird spot for television. But if you've never seen The Shield, go watch it. It's about as satisfying as a conclusion as I've ever seen for a series. I'm not going to say anything else. Don't want to spoil anything. Just going to say it that way. Also finished up Invincible Season 2. They just did the second part of it on Amazon. That was 4 episodes. They're promising it's not going to be another thing where it's 3 years between seasons again next time. So you don't need to have read the comics or anything. Check it out. Super awesome. Great voice cast. Incredibly violent. Maybe the most violent cartoon I've ever seen. But man, it really hits. It's super great. And then the other thing I finished up was Constellation. It's on Apple TV. Naomi Rapace, Jonathan Banks. Love me some Jonathan Banks. If you have Apple TV, you should check it out. If you don't have Apple TV, if they get picked up for season 2, I'd maybe then check it out and then watch season 2 in that year or two now or whenever it happens down the road. It's one of those that maybe they could have made it satisfying, but they left it open for more stuff. So now I want to see the more stuff, but I'm not super compelled on it, so I wouldn't go ahead and, subscribe to Apple TV or anything for it. But if you do have Apple TV, you haven't checked it out, I would recommend putting it on at some point. It looks really cool. Well acted, some beats you've definitely seen before, but definitely enjoyed it. Jamie G, what are you filling the level of your holes up with there?
Oh man, I've definitely been filling them up, guys. Couple things. I'm rounding into, I've been complaining about my annoyance. I've aired my grievance with Fargo, with each episode, saying it's based on a true story, even though it's not. I decided to ride it out, and I'm almost through. I've got one more episode left in season 3. Really enjoyed season 3. Season 1 was very good. Season 2 was just kind of okay. Season 3 has been a lot of fun. So really enjoyed that, and am enjoying that, I should say. And so that's been fun. Now, one thing that I do want to bring up here to everyone's attention is I got sucked into a documentary on Netflix called The Octopus Murders, and it was absolutely awesome, mind-blowing, so cool. It's a 4-parter. Each one's about an hour, and basically it takes place. It's about a investigative journalist back in 1990 picked up a case. Kind of takes place in the Northern Virginia, Washington D.C. area, which is really cool, and that's where he's from. Picks up this case about this government contracting software development company that sold a piece of software to the Department of Justice and then was suing the Department of Justice because the Department of Justice, they're saying that the DOJ stole it, right? So this journalist gets involved in this. Through there, he uncovers this insane list of cover-ups and conspiracies that it's all connected, basically taking place throughout Reagan's administration in the 80 to 88 timeframe. and it was unbelievable. And in 1991, he was found dead in a hotel about an hour and a half outside of DC in West Virginia. And he said it was suicide, but it was very, very, very circumstantial. I don't know that it was. Super fun, really fast pace. It was definitely a mysterious thing. Makes you think. If you're into that kind of stuff, I highly, highly recommend it. Super fun.
I will say that I did also see the new Roadhouse, the remake there with Jake Gyllenhaal. It was fine. Conor McGregor, whatever. Doug Liman, good director. But they did this weird CGI thing in some of the action scenes. If you have Prime or whatever and you want to check it out, go ahead. It's not that great. I watched the Swayze joint after it. And that I'm not like a huge Roadhouse guy, but Swayze just has charisma. Yeah, I mean, then you get Sam Elliott showing up and just an awesome role there. It's not great, but it doesn't aspire to be anything great. It's kind of almost like a little bit of Swayze doing something he does better in Point Break a few years later. But nothing wrong with the original Roadhouse. But I think even if the action scenes are, better, quote unquote, in the new one, I'd rather watch the old one. So figured I'd throw that out there.
Dude, I'm glad you did, actually, because it was one thing that popped up, and I was like, do I want to watch this movie or not? I do like Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm not huge on a Roadhouse remake because I do appreciate the original. It's hard to. I'm not big on the remake, anyway. So, but I can't stand that whatever he is, kickboxer, MMA,
Conor McGregor,
whatever. Yeah. So that was, I was like, nah. So I haven't seen it yet, and I also haven't really heard good things about it. So I'll just
it's one of those things too where they get real fighters and they don't look as good on camera because real fighting generally doesn't look as good on camera. That's why they do fake fighting. Really, it's not the same thing, kind of. So that is one where even though he's a good fighter, it doesn't necessarily mean like his fight scenes look great. They're not bad or anything, but again, it's nothing. Don't go out of you don't have to go out of your way to see it.
Yeah, I saw Gyllenhaal. I think he was on Fallon. Yeah, it was probably Fallon where he was.
Yeah, he got pretty jacked.
He was talking about. Yeah, we was talking about this movie, promoting it or whatever, and he made it sound really cool. And they showed a clip or whatever, and apparently they put a lot of work into it or whatever, and he really took on the role for it, or so I can appreciate that, but I don't think it's my thing. If it comes on, I might check it out, but I'm not going to go out of my way to check it out.
It's one of those. And from a director that made, The Bourne Identity. So dude definitely knows his, his way around the fight scenes and stuff. So I had a little bit higher hopes for it. Like you said, Gyllenhaal, generally a solid actor, but not as easy to root for, kind of. Like he always kind of he's better playing weird dudes, I think. He's great at weird characters. Something like Zodiac or whatever. It's super awesome. Donnie Darko, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
Donnie Darko, man.
Yeah. When he was with Swayze in that one. So that's kind of, there's your connection to for Roadhouse.
Yeah, that was something that was brought up in that interview too. I remember talking about that, and some of the fight scenes where how it's harder to fake fight apparently than to real fight.
We're not representing 4 cities, but shout out to Quad City DJs because it's time for the hype train. Mills, what are you hyped about?
I already mentioned it. Definitely the Curb Your Enthusiasm finale. Excited for the Masters. Excited for NBA playoffs. NHL playoffs, the Kentucky Derby, the national championship. It is a great time to be a sports fan. Ton of stuff coming out. Really excited about it. Finally going to get around to seeing Dune Part 2 really soon. Excited for that. I know that's been out, but I'm looking forward to it. And I am at least cautiously optimistic about the Fallout show from Amazon, mostly because, above all else, I trust in Walton Goggins. Jamie G, what are you hyped for?
Yeah, I too trust in Walton Goggins. Dude, I'm pretty excited about Boy Kills World coming out April 26th. It's got one of the Skarsgårds in there, and it's got our boy H. John Benjamin, also known as Sterling Archer. Trailer looked pretty cool, kind of this dystopian fever dream type stuff. I'm curious to see how they handle. Apparently, like one of the people are deaf, so it'd be interesting to see how that handles. I think that can bring out some of the some of the visuals and whatnot. So kind of excited about it. We'll see what happens. If it just becomes like a all out, like me against the world, just get even thing, or if it totally bombs. But either way, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, solid supporting cast. You got the Famke Janssen, Brett Kelman, Charlotte Copley. That's a solid cast right there. So that's a cool one. I'm assuming H. John Benjamin is doing a voice, but he is so good at that. Ever going back to, was it The Critic, I think? So, he just has one of those super distinctive voices. Soup, what are you like for?
Well, I have been able to watch a couple of trailers, coming whatnots, and one thing I'm actually really interested in is Sasquatch Sunset, man. I feel like this is an untapped realm, dude. There's not many Sasquatch movies out there other than like maybe Harry and the Hendersons. I can't really think of one. And that's going back to the 80s there. So this looks like it's got a lot of potential. It looks like it could be really funny. I think it's a make or break. It's either going to, I don't think there's an in between. It's either going to be good or it's going to suck. But interesting enough to make me want to check it out, from judging from what I've seen by the trailer there, which I like that they didn't give away a whole lot. I don't think there's any fucking dialogue in it, at least in the trailer anyway, from what I recall. But it had me interested, and that's probably something I will look at. I'm a little hyped about that one. I also, I'm always into any kind of like vampiric whatnot, and the Abigail movie that's coming out looks pretty good. I mean, the last vampire movie that came out that I know of that was, kind of all right was Renfield, and it had different aspects of that kind of world or whatever, and it was pretty cool. I feel like this is gonna be kind of similar to that, but not like storyline wise, but on that level. So it'll be worth watching for me anyway. The trailer looked pretty sick. So definitely something I'll check out. And aside from that, I'm really stoked to see what Fish does at the Sphere here in a couple days or a week or whatever it is, because they are going to light Vegas up like it's never been before, man.
Yeah, no doubt about that, buddy. I can't wait. And I just want to say something really quickly on that note, too, because they're so awesome. Leading up to this, no artist, no production, no show that has taken place in the Sphere has been able to live stream it. Fish don't play that. They are offering the live stream, bucking the system, taking a pay cut to do so because they're awesome. And that's going to be super cool. So even if you can't make it out to the Sphere, you can always live stream it. So that's super cool.
Yeah, CK5 also rigged up to be able to light the buildings around it for a couple of, for the event, where it's got, I read a thing about it where it's so intricate that it'll never be the same thing twice, and it's going to go on like constantly or something. If you get a chance, look into that too, if you're interested in this kind of thing. So I think that'll be a whole nother aspect of just bringing, this Fish event to the Sphere. It's not just a show. It's going to be, multiple levels of awesome. So I'm looking forward to seeing. I wish I could be there. Can't, but I'm looking forward to seeing whatever I can over, fortunately we're in an age where we can get like, video and streams and whatnot. So whatever I can get, I'm going to.
We've gone from be there or be square to be here in the Sphere.
Yeah, nice.
We're almost ready to touch down on planet Juridia. But first, we need to connect us dudes to the dude with the 6 Degrees of Lebowski. Magnum Mills, it's your job to connect Spaceballs to the Big Lebowski in 6 degrees or less, starting with the easiest connection.
Yeah, not even going to break a sweat here. In Spaceballs, Rick Moranis plays Dark Helmet. In the Flintstones, Rick Moranis plays Barney Rubble, while John Goodman played Fred Flintstone. John Goodman is Walter. You got to make it more interesting than that, dude. Too easy.
Yeah, well, how about you find a way to connect George Weiner to, who played Colonel Sanders, to the Big Lebowski? Can you do that?
That's literally just as easy. In Spaceballs, George Weiner plays Colonel Sanders. In American Pie 2, George Weiner plays camp director, while Tara Reid plays Vicky. Tara Reid is Buddy Lebowski.
I'm going to go find an ATM machine.
Both way too easy. Just dig deeper for one more. Dealer's choice here.
All right, we'll do a fun one. In Spaceballs, Daphne Zuniga plays Princess Vespa. In Season 2, Episode 17 of Family Ties, Double Date, Daphne Zuniga guest starred as Rachel Miller, and Justine Bateman starred as Mallory Keaton. In Season 3, Episode 11 of Arrested Development, Family Ties, Justine Bateman guest starred as Nellie, and Jason Bateman starred as Michael Bluth. In Necessary Roughness, Jason Bateman plays Jarvis Edison, while Kathy Ireland plays Lucy Draper. In Mr. Destiny, Kathy Ireland plays Gina, while Courtney Cox plays Jewel Jagger. In The Runner, from 1999, Courtney Cox plays Karina, and John Goodman plays Deep Throat. And once again, John Goodman is Walter.
Holy shit, you tied that together like Captain Knots there, dude. That was a string of shit. Nice work, man.
Yeah, definitely. It was very stringy. I guess that is digging deeper, but you still used Walter twice, so I don't know if we can count that.
It wasn't Donnie, though.
One more. In Spaceballs, Rick Moranis plays Dark Helmet. In Ghostbusters, Rick Moranis starred as Louis Tully, and Ernie Hudson starred as Winston Zedmore. In The Crow, Ernie Hudson starred as Elbrecht, while John Polito played Gideon, the pawn shop owner. And my friends, in The Big Lebowski, John Polito plays the private Snoop, the dude hired to check up on The Big Lebowski. And I don't give a shit if you complain about that I used Moranis twice, so don't worry, he can handle it.
She looked like Rick Moranis.
Moranis was always in pretty good shape, yeah.
Dude, I feel like anytime you can throw him around, I don't think he. I would love to see more of him, or would have loved to see more of him. Anytime you can throw Moranis into something, I'm down, man.
I'll tell you what, I am sufficiently warmed up. Let's crack open our cans of Perrier and do this damn thing. Mills, hit us with the details. It's time for Spaceballs.
This is Spaceballs. Maybe you should call it Spaceballs the movie, but they didn't. Directed by Mel Brooks. Written by Mel Brooks, Ronnie Graham, and Thomas Meehan. Produced by Mel Brooks. Cinematographer was Nick McLean. Edited by Conrad Buff IV. Music by John Morris. Originally released June 24th, 1987. It had a budget of $22.7 million. Starring Mel Brooks, John Candy, Bill Pullman, Daphne Zuniga, Dick Van Patten, George Weiner, and Joan Rivers. The short plot synopsis is: no need to call George Lucas, because ILM did some of the special effects on this classic parody of Star Wars from Mel Brooks. The ships are bigger, the stakes are higher, and the Schwartz can get twisted if you don't know how to use it. Join Lone Star and Barf as they attempt to save Princess Vespa and the entire galaxy from Dark Helmet and the Spaceballs. Sponsored by Liquid Schwartz.
This is going to be a full discussion of Spaceballs, maybe Star Wars, and possibly every single Mel Brooks movie that's ever been made. And this is as good a time as ever to say, hey, we did do Robin Hood Men in Tights. Go ahead and check that out after you watch this one. This is your first and final warning. There is no cancellation button. That's it. Nothing you can do. Even if there was, it'd be out of order.
I mean, even in the future, everything is out of order. That's just, they're not wrong about that. And people don't know how to use video chat. The movie was very prescient in predicting that. People still don't understand how to do the video chat correctly. Let's not waste time. We don't need to do overall thoughts here. We all like Spaceballs. I'd just kind of be like, why did Spaceballs hit so well for all of us, whether it was when you were younger or now? Is it because of the Star Wars stuff? Is it just the jokes? Is it the feel? Is it, having barf when you're younger? Oh, it's a big dog guy. I mean, what really kind of worked for you and just made you just love Spaceballs? Not necessarily your favorite part of the movie, but just what you connected with the most. Soup, what do you think, man? Where does your love of Spaceballs come from?
Dude, I honestly think it's everything about this movie. I mean, there is not a scene in this movie that doesn't have something noteworthy. I mean, whether it's dialogue or something in the background or just the ongoing things, rehashing or extended jokes throughout the thing. And, I mean, I just love this style of movie, and it is something that I saw, in my younger years and have seen a lot, and it holds up even now. Yeah, it's still, late 80s or whatever, and you can tell it's kind of cheesy, but you can get past that just because of what it is. And this is one of those movies that you can just, when in doubt, you can go with it, and you're not going to be disappointed, man. There's always it's a movie you can always just throw on, if you need something, and there's just too much stuff. Like I said, man, every moment of this movie is there's something, worth looking at.
It works even if you haven't seen Star Wars, I think. Because I believe the first time I saw this, I had never, I knew of Star Wars, and I'd maybe seen, Return of the Jedi or something, but I didn't really know. And it still worked for me, and I think that's a crucial part of a parody. For instance, Robin Hood Men in Tights doesn't work if you haven't seen Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, really. It just won't. It might be okay, but it's not going to hit nearly the same here. Yeah, it hits a lot better if you know all the things they're parodying, but it's such a good flick on its own, and it looks great, and it sounds great, too. If you're going to parody Star Wars, which is famous for, having very advanced special effects and everything, yeah, there's a couple of little cheesy moments, but this movie looks and sounds better than it has any right to, really. It's just fun, like you said. It keeps moving.
Yeah.
Jamie G, why do you love Spaceballs?
Yeah, in agreement with both you guys. I think that it's just, for one, there's a nostalgia element. I think it's going to hit more for people of our age demographic, just because we grew up with it or whatever. But I think it's the fact that it holds up so well. Like the fact that you can rewatch this now. What is it? We're almost, what are we, almost 40 years later? I mean, 30 plus years and change. 37 years here, I think, or whatever it is. And it still holds up and is still funny and is still enjoyable. It's just a very good time. Like, it's a fun watch. I enjoy kind of how they split it up, the characters. You've got kind of the storyline with Lone Star and Barf, and then you've got what's happening on Spaceballs, the ship, with Moranis and Lord Helmet and all that. And that's so great. And then it's like the little side stuff with Pizza the Hut and, back in Juridia and that kind of stuff. And it's just in the president of Spaceballs. It's like between those things, it works so well. It's not overly complicated. They didn't try to do too much. It's just right. And shit, man, it holds up.
You said that a couple times, but it really does. And that's yet another big difference, I think, between, Men in Tights here. There's a couple of jokes, but like even Pizza the Hut works even if Pizza Hut had folded. Even Mr. Coffee still works, despite the fact that now people don't know Mr. Coffee was a very popular coffee maker. And Back to the Future already made this joke with Mr. Fusion. And it didn't really matter, right? Because it's all just done so well. Perfect casting. I mean, just absolute, pitch perfect. There's just not much you can really complain about here. It's just a fun movie. You don't need to know a lot about it. It works basically if you're in a good mood or you're in a bad mood. You're whatever. The jokes layer on top of each other. You can tell it's a script. I believe it took him 2.5 years to get it done, like 4 drafts. You can tell, again, unlike Prince of Thieves, Prince of, you know what I mean? Prince of the not as good one. A lot of polish on this one. And Jamie G, most importantly, they did something back then. This is 1987, so I believe 27 years ago as we're recording this. So not quite that old, but still a fair amount of time ago. No, 37 years. You are right. It is a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm right. 37.
We're old, dude. We're old. Anyways, but back then, if you notice during the movie, Darth Helmet's drinking coffee out of just a regular plastic styrofoam cup. That's what coffee cups used to look like back in the day. That was deliberate because people used to leave them all around set. So they just had Dark Helmet drink one on screen. So if there was ever a random shot of a coffee cup, it would be explained by the movie. Something Game of Thrones couldn't wrap their heads around.
Well, that's because the coffee was too hot.
Oh, that's a great top tier spit take on that one.
Yeah.
Well, and then it's a runner too, where he's drinking through his thing, and you just hear the sound through the microphone. Just incredible. On our last episode, we talked about Robin Hood, Men in Tights. Long story short, we didn't hate it, but we didn't think it held up to our expectations. Certainly not our memories and what we thought it would be. Soup, why do you think that Spaceballs has held up so well while Men in Tights did not?
Well, I mean, they're two totally different movies, man. I mean, yeah, they're both spoofs of a different movie. Whereas things like other movies like Blazing Saddles, not a spoof. Young Frankenstein, not really spoof, but these two are spoofs, man. I think the Men in Tights just didn't have it the way Spaceballs did. It didn't hold up. I think there was more. Effort involved in Spaceballs with a lot of the little things. Now, there's some of that in Men in Tights, and Men in Tights has its moments, but not nearly as good as Spaceballs. Spaceballs front to back is just fucking solid, Men in Tights has its moments where it just isn't. You almost want to skip past some shit or go to something else, So, it just doesn't it doesn't grab you the way Spaceballs does and hang on the way that Spaceballs does. Yeah.
Yeah, and no fault to Carrie Ells or whatever. Most of the people there are trying. Like you said, it's not as good of a script, much more polished here. The jokes are just way better. The writing is better. Everything comes back around. Even early stuff with Evacuate the Circus or whatever, it comes back around again with the escape pod scene. And just, I think it's much more of a rich soil just available to till here, right? You just said Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves for Men in Tights. Here, you have the Star Wars movies, the Alien movies, the Star Trek series. There's a lot of stuff as far as the space movies and that kind of thing. I just think it gives you more options, right? They're stuck in, Men in Tights just sticking really close to a movie that in itself is pretty cheesy to begin with. Maybe the original Star Wars has a little bit of cheese, but it's not unintentional. It's kind of, made that way in the style of the Flash Gordon serials or whatever. So I think there's a lot of reasons really, but just overall, this is just better. And pick your source material. Again, I think we talked about Men in Tights. Like, man, I wish Mel Brooks did a Godfather parody or something, like a mobster movie parody. I think that would have been way better than what he picked with a Robin Hood parody. And here, picking a space fan parody was just perfect.
I agree with all those things. And I think that there's a wider cast here in terms of the ancillary characters do more. You know, like we would never get the laughs out of, you know, just the random, you know, men in tights that aren't main characters like we would with the people on the spaceship. You know, like there's just a lot here that I think is better with Spaceballs. So, you know, in agreement with everything you guys said, not a ton more that I can add, but I think that gives us those our reasons. And let us know what you guys think, if you thought it was the other way, or if you agree with us.
You brought up one interesting one that I never thought of. If you think about it, Achu is Dave Chappelle, a very talented comedic guy. Almost all of his jokes are based on his name, except for the Malcolm X one. Here you have Barf, which is a joke that looks like it's set up to be like, don't barf in my Mercedes in the puke gag, but then at the end it pays off that his full name is Bartholomew. And that's like the 10th funniest joke associated with him, instead of being about his whole name, right? Like in Men in Tights, Achu's name is the whole joke. Here, the dog's name Barf, and yeah, it's a joke, but it's not nearly like that important of a joke. You know what I mean? It's just,
yeah, they let him be a character.
I think it only gets brought up the one time actually, where I think it's Dot Matrix. It's like, you know, hey, my name's Barf, and
right, don't barf like, in the Mercedes, and then there's the one where Jabba or Pizza the Hut calls him Puke, whatever. He calls him Puke, and then at the end, like, you need the full name for the wedding or whatever, Bartholomew. And the way John Candy delivers that's so great, because he's so proud to like say his full name. And I wonder where, I don't even really care where that joke came from, but it's great. But again, that's, Achu is a sneeze joke that they play for the whole movie. Here, you know, the dog's name Barf, and it only comes up a couple times, and it's absolutely brilliant every time.
Yeah, it really is, man. And they let him be a character, and obviously it's John Candy, dude. I mean, that's all you need. He's a mob. Let's hit up Mr. Rental and get into this thing. There's a lot to discuss here. We're gonna try to more or less just go in chronological order from the beginning. We might just, we might mess around just a bit here, but I don't want to miss anything.
That would have been funny if you did the Aerosmith thing and you were like, I don't want to miss a thing, which is again another space movie. I'd love to see a Mel Brooks parody of Armageddon. That would be super awesome. How about the opening here? They do the Star Wars thing, which is pretty cool. I remember loving the joke at the end where if you can read this, you don't need glasses. And then we get a 90-second shot of Spaceball 1 coming in, and it just keeps going and going and going. You get a little bit of a parody of the shot in A New Hope. It's not quite that long. That's probably 30 seconds here. It's a full 90 seconds. Did y'all like this? And did you know it was a Star Wars thing when you watched it? If you remember, like, had you really seen Star Wars? Or did this seem like kind of original for Spaceballs or whatever? Because I always love it, but it is a long opening where no one says anything.
Yeah, obviously, I think, you know, that was the point of doing it like that, you know, to make it long and like, when's this going to end, you know? But then you look at the detail on Spaceball 1, the ship, and you know, after watching it a bunch of times, and especially like recently leading up to this, I was like, you know, okay, so somewhere in here there's the zoo, there's a circus. This is probably the part where there's a bunch of apartments where people live, you know, and you got to figure how many people does it take to man a ship like that, you know, not only to run the thing, let alone the, you know, the crew that is, like, you know, the Spaceball army and everything else, but then there's residents and whatnot in there too, you know. So I mean, this is
maybe even independent contractors. We might even be there. We might be talking about,
yeah, man, right?
It is like the Death Star a little bit. That was the argument, right? That they're janitors and all that kind of, like, it's a huge infrastructure, and, you know, again, maybe playing a little bit on the Star Trek or whatever, where they have all that kind of stuff on the ship, but just cool. It's done by ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. This is a company that did Star Wars. George Lucas wrote off on this. He let Mel Brooks do it. The only rule was no merchandising. That's why there's so many merchandising jokes and so little authorized merchandise, because that was the deal he made. He could basically say whatever he wanted about Star Wars or whatever, but they couldn't do merchandising. No, that's why we didn't get Spaceballs the towel or...
I'm never going to get a Spaceballs the flamethrower.
You can, but it will not be officially licensed. You know what I mean? It's going to be black market or whatever. So, I mean, very cool opening. again, did it make any impact on you other than though they're doing the Star Wars parody? Or
I thought, to Soup's point, it was neat to just kind of see how big and vast the ship is. But I think the other thing that was cool here was it looked way better than it should have for a 1987 movie. It just looked a lot better than it should have. I thought even just at the beginning with the whole kind of diagonal crawl with the words, and that was, I don't know, it got me kind of excited about the movie. And then you take out this awesome ship and just like this, it just looked better than it was supposed to. And I think that was the coolest part about it. And I was okay with that because there was really nothing like that for the rest of the movie. Everything moved around pretty quick.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a parody. I just wish they would have somehow tied maybe the Energizer Bunny into it. Remember, he keeps going and going and going because that's kind of that shot.
It pays off at the end with the "We Break for No One," though. It definitely did.
Well, until they break coming out of ludicrous speed, and the thing makes it very clear, like, don't ever use this. Like, this is really bad. But they intended to break for nobody. Then we go in the ship. We meet Colonel Sanders and Dark Helmet. Originally, Mel Brooks's pick for Colonel Sanders was Steve Martin. How much of a different movie is this if Steve Martin is Colonel Sanders? And how much more sense does Colonel Sanders make as a character if you think about these lines being written for Steve Martin? He was good, but it feels so Steve Martin, right?
Wow, yeah, absolutely, dude. That changes a lot, man. Right.
There was never any other choice for Dark Helmet. It was Moranis all the way, and then he suggested John Candy. It is fine. I mean, I don't mind that he's named Colonel Sanders, but it all seems to go to that, what's the matter, Colonel Sanders chicken line, which is, I guess, a double because you get a KFC joint and Back to the Future reference. It's fine, but I don't know, maybe there was a funnier name, but I don't mind it. It's funny that it's spelled like Sanders, like Sandurz.
Yeah,
Sanders
I do think when you look at the actor, it looks like a stunt double for Steve Martin. You can tell they were trying to go with Steve Martin. He would have been awesome in this with like his face mannerisms and like all of his stuff that he could have done. I think he would have really elevated that role. But Colonel Sanders was fine. I think it could have been a lot better.
Steve Martin and Moranis can have that like energy that he has with Martin Short, kind of, right? You know what I mean? Like I feel like they would vibe like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they ever collaborated.
I was thinking about that too. I don't think they did. I don't think we ever got Moranis unless Martin was on SCTV at some point. Maybe that's probably the only way. Is if you ever randomly guess it, maybe at a comedy show or something. But probably it. Just how about Moranis, dude? You bring him in here. You get the "you went over my helmet," and just the idea that Darth Vader, right, this big imposing dude, they have him in the thing, and then you have the tie gag with the cock and balls tie, which in itself is just absolutely fantastic. And then he does the deep James Earl voice, kind of in James Earl Jones voice, and then pulls up the thing, and it's Rick Moranis with the glasses even. That's brilliant, right? That's inspired casting. I can't say anything else. It's just inspired casting. You like the intro here? He shoots the dude, he uses the Schwartz to hit the dude in the nards. And then for the rest of the flick, you see guys just instinctively, whenever he turns towards them, it's like soccer. If you're standing in to block a free kick or something, that's how you're taught to stand. You cover your bits or whatever with your hands like that. So that's exactly what they do every time. And that's just such a good runner throughout the flick. Even when he does something wrong, they all know to look away. Like, oh, he's screwing up again. Everyone's like, oh, I'm not. I see nothing.
What's hilarious about this is that obviously that's never happened before. So immediately the guy in question there who went over his helmet goes like, oh, no, not that, thinking like, in Star Wars, he chokes the dude out with the Force or whatever. Now the Schwartz comes, so he covers his whatnot, and instead he just rails him right in the nuts, dude, and so then, now everybody's like,
every time, right? Every time he comes around, they're covering. Yeah, it's great.
The surprise, the initial shock of, oh man, you got him in the balls, and you weren't expecting it. So I think that was great.
It's just the way Moranis plays, like Dark Helmet is just incompetent, not necessarily evil, just an idiot. And the whole, Mr. Coffee, Mr. Radar thing, again, just inspired. But to this credit, whenever I watch Radar, I do drink coffee. Like I always drink coffee when I watch Radar. I thought that was just a given, really.
Everybody knows that, you know that.
I always have coffee when I watch Radar. You know that.
Of course I do, sir.
Everybody knows that.
Of course we do, sir.
And it's such a good pan, when they just pan from, up to Mr. Coffee and then over to Mr. Radar. And then again, you get Mr. Rental a little bit later. And then there they give the quick synopsis of the whole thing. They explain, here's what's going on, here's what's going on. And they do the fourth wall break. Just look right in the camera like, all right, we good? Just beautiful, lay it out. Here's the plot. We good? All right, Oh, and the spit take. The hot spit take there when he's drinking the coffee, watching the Radar. That is super awesome.
Hot! Too hot!
And then we meet Princess Vespa, Dot Matrix, King Roland. Not a ton here. You just kind of meet the characters. Prince Valium is, I guess that's more of an 80s thing. Like people I guess it was a thing like, oh, I'm going to go home tonight to meet Prince Valium because people would take Valium to go to bed or whatever. I just thought it was kind of funny here, but I guess that's more of a joke than I thought, but Valium is still around. So I guess they won that one. Maybe it works a little bit better than Dot Matrix, which is based on the idea that, Dot Matrix was a printer. And if you were, I don't know, unless you used a printer before 1995, you probably don't know about Dot Matrix printers, right? So
right.
I guess those both work, but they're close enough, right? They're not super dated, but both of them are, I guess, a little whatever. But shout out Prince Valium. He is tired the whole time. And then at the very end, well, when Vespa shows back up, he's like, oh, you left? They do hammer the joke into the ground for what it's worth.
Well, and he's yawning the whole time. I mean, it's
yeah.
It's okay. It's not my favorite. I mean, it's fine. It's just, I think there's way better jokes in this than that, but it's fine.
It's there. It's good enough, and it is still, Valium is still a thing. It's not like Ludes, it hasn't disappeared. So, it is still a prescribed something for people who need it and whatnot. So it's there still. Probably not as abundant as it used to be back then, but yeah, it's still.
Let me just ask you, non-Mel Brooks movies. If I ask you to name some reference for Dick Van Patten, what's the first thing you think of? Because for me, it's Wayne's World when Wayne is talking in Japanese and he randomly says Dick Van Patten.
Yeah.
I don't know from anything else. I guess it's 8 is enough or whatever, but I never watched that. Next up, we meet Barf and Lone Star. I mean, this is pretty cool, right? You come into Raise Your Hands by Bon Jovi. Barf's eating the big milk bones, just straight up eating the milk bones. You meet Lone Star, looks like Han Solo, dressed like Indiana Jones, and then we meet Pizza the Hut. This is just an amazing 5 minutes or so of film, right? They're in a space Winnebago. All this happens. Very cool shot. And then everything with Pizza the Hut. I mean, especially this works whether you're 5 or 50, right? That's the best part about Spaceballs. There's no limit to who this joke works for. Jokes, I should say.
It worked so well, and I love the introduction to Pizza the Hut, and I love kind of just like I'm going to put it on video call, and then he accidentally switches. Or I'm going to put it on audio only. He accidentally switches.
Even
to
in the
video
future,
call.
nobody knows how to use video chat.
Exactly, and it's so good, and so that's awesome. And then the fact that even early on, he's freaking eating him, right? And that's great. The robot dude, Vinny. I love that sound. They nailed the sound. And yeah, dude. So I mean, that's the introduction here was great.
Yeah, I mean, Pizza the Hut is pretty fantastic. And the original dude actually got burned. If you notice, there's cheese bubbling on him while Vinny is eating him. I mean, obviously you have the almost iconic line like, "Oh, pizza, you're delicious." And that is so good. But then also
or else pizza is gonna send out for you.
That is also very good. Super cool. They achieved the look of Vinny with just makeup. Dude's not wearing any prosthetics or anything. I like the idea that Spacebucks is the currency, right? They didn't try that hard. They're like, what can we name our money? Not like credits or some Spacebucks. That just sounds cool, right?
It does sound cool.
Well, it's like Euros, man. Just you throw it all together. It doesn't matter what planet or whatever. We got Spacebucks, dude.
That's good soup.
Patty's Pub even copied that with their Patty's Bucks. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And there were a couple other people considered from Lone Star. You had James Caan, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Tom Berenger. A lot of Toms here. Ultimately, it looks like they tried to get James Caan, but at that point he was having some addiction issues, so they couldn't insure him. So that's why they wound up going with Pullman. But I think it works there, right? Like there's not a lot of real names in the flick outside of probably at this point Moranis, I guess, and
John Candy.
John Candy a little bit. He's still this is 87. Filmed probably in 86. So I mean, names, but not big names, right?
I like Bill Pullman in this movie, and I mean,
he's great.
Other than maybe Lost Highway, I don't even really know if I remember him from anything else. But
Malice is cool, but I mean, he's a president in Independence Day, and I think this flick definitely got him that job. Like this flick definitely, because when he gives a little speech or whatever, he's got that same kind of earnestness or whatever. Tom Berenger would have been super weird, as would even Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks.
Even Tom Hanks, I don't think really would have worked for this. He probably would have been the best out of the Toms for this role, but I don't know.
I wouldn't have mind Tom Hanks as either Colonel Sanders or Barf, maybe. I mean, John Candy's great, but if you couldn't get John Candy, maybe Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks putting on some dog makeup or whatever would be fun. He's done some kind of a little bit of physical comedy or whatever. So it's fine, but I think Bill Pullman was the right choice, right? Even if it wasn't their first, second, third, fourth choice. He plays it perfect. He's got good chemistry with Daphne Zuniga. And George Lucas was in on the whole thing here. Again, he only asked about the merchandising thing, and there was only one other rule, and that was that Lone Star wouldn't dress like Han Solo. So that's why he dresses like Indiana Jones.
Maybe
the hat in the first couple of scenes when he's sleeping there in the Winnebago. And I wrote in my notes, I'm like, why is he dressed like Indiana Jones? So then I, did a little bit of research, and I was like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense.
That's an interesting tidbit there, man. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking real quick, just off the top of my head, maybe Jason Bateman might have been all right on that role. As Lone Star.
Well, he'd be pretty young at this point. This is he was probably on
Teen Wolf 2 era. Yeah, Teen Wolf 2.
You said it. Why not Indiana Jones himself? Why not Harrison Ford?
I mean, that would have been the baller move, kind of like how they got John Hurt to basically play his character from Alien. I mean, that would have been the super kind of baller move.
But I do think it was right with Bill Pullman. Bill Paxton would have been all right too, for what it's worth.
Think one of the Bill P's, Billy P. Brenda Billy P.
One of the Billy P's.
Anyways, and then you get the escape by Vespa and Dot Matrix. They're in the Mercedes there. There's not much other than I love the line.
Okay. We all know Prince Valium is a pill, but you could have married him for your father's sake and then had a headache for the next 25 years.
That is so Joan Rivers. And shout out Joan Rivers. She is awesome in this.
Agreed.
Yes.
She just slays. Like, it's a little bit of her personality, but also, within the context of the movie.
Hey, stop looking at my can.
Sorry.
Another great one. And then we meet President Scrooge. I'm not going to lie, when I was a kid, I thought he was President Scrooge. I always just thought, I'm like, Scrooge? It's because Scrooge is an anagram of Mel Brooks. I don't know that I necessarily love that gag, but it's fine that it's Scrooge. But
dude, that's funny. I think I remember when I was younger, I thought it was Scrooge at first, and then
realized because they couldn't say Scrooge, so they said something like Scrooge, but it wasn't Scrooge. Scrooge is weird, but it's definitely an anagram. It's an anagram of Mel Brooks.
It's genius. Yeah.
But I do enjoy him getting beamed. This is a Star Trek joke. If you've never seen Star Trek, they beam people to like transport them places. And the fact that Snotty is Scotty, and again, Star Trek Scotty is a very Scottish dude, not super subtle there. The dude's even wearing a kilt or whatever. But he did beam the chick twice last night, and she was really into it.
She loved it, man. I mean, Snotty beamed her twice. Yeah, that's right, man. She was all about it. But then, tell me what happens when President Scrooge gets beamed, because it doesn't go as well as it did with that chick.
Well, mostly because nobody told him his ass was so big. That was really the main problem.
That was a great line. But I also love how at the end he just walks out his door and he's literally right there.
Right, they're beaming him to the next room. There's all this technology to beam him to the next room. That, again, yeah, absolutely perfect. Like, it's the addition of the joke, right? It's like taking it one step further. No more beaming. This time I'm going to walk. And you think, oh, man, this is going to be a whole thing. And he walks to the next room. And they even tack out of that at the end when he comes running into the bridge of Spaceball 1. He's like,
ship is too big. If I walk, the movie will be over.
So they even bring that back around. The writing is just so good. And on top of that, when you first meet Scrooge here, he's on the phone assuring someone that they still have air. And at the end, he's like, thank you for calling and not reversing the charges. This means Scrooge, the president of the Spaceballs, is on the phone dealing with, very minute customer complaints. I just love that little tidbit of it all.
Yeah, and the Perrier was such a great little.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one too. That's a great gag.
Just great. Yeah, secretly snuffing the Perrier.
Well, they're so great about kind of that kind of stuff because it comes up a lot with that type of wordplay comes up a lot throughout this movie, and that's a great example of Perrier.
I will say, not super enthused about Scrooge's mustache. I don't mind the weird part of it, but it's not lined up straight. Just as like it bothers my OCD. It's off. They're not level.
Yeah,
that must have been a pain in the ass for Mel Brooks. I guess that's makeup, right? I'm assuming it was just makeup they put on every day, because that would be really hard to maintain over the course of shooting the film.
I would gamble that it's definitely not a real stash.
Yeah,
it's
either
either
makeup,
or there's some
or
a draw on for sure.
But why don't make it straight then? Whatever. I mean, we'll get to the actual Hitler mustache of it all. And then after that, we get kind of the whole thing where the Spaceballs try to kidnap Vespa, Lone Star and Barf save the day. Yeah, how about that is a salute too.
Can we do
what
the
do you
salute
think the Spaceball salute is? Like, is it you're supposed to be giving the middle finger and then you do a wave, right? That's the.
I think it's that, but he always does that.
Right, because like it's supposed to be like you're going to give someone the finger, but then you give them the wave to like surprise them. I mean, that's fine. That's sing us a song, your people.
You know what's crazy? I think doing this was like a thing back in the day. Like, hey, fuck you, like almost like
it might have been. Yeah, it very well might have been. Yeah, showed up your whatnot, right? Like, yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah, and you don't see anybody do that. Kind of like mooning people. Nobody does that anymore either. I want to bring that back, man. But
I really don't want to see random dudes' asses. Like, I don't know, like
why, but I think it's hilarious if people do. You never see if you see a car going down the road, man, and somebody's ass hanging out, there's mooning. I mean, you got to. That's funny. I mean,
it reminds me of like the conversation between Driscoll and Dee, and the gang hits the slopes about
How about if I show you my dick?
Why would I want that?
Oh, okay. It's a prank if you don't want to see it, but he shows you anyway. This guy gets it. I think I get it.
After that, the Spaceballs attack Vespa. Lone Star and Barf wind up saving the day. The first part of this is when they talk to King Roland to get the the million space bucks or whatever. Part of that's so great is the King. He wants to, like, if you can, try to get the car. Like, please try to save the car. I love that little bit. And the whole idea that, like, we're not doing it for money. We're doing it for a shitload of money. I love that when I was younger.
The whole car bit's so funny because it's a brand new C-Class Mercedes C-Class white interior. Like, he gives the whole write-up, and it's so funny, dude.
Right, which sets up the no barf in it joke too. What's my name? Barf. Not here. This is a new Mercedes.
Right. It's great. Mercedes was all the hype in the late 80s, so that's pretty awesome.
I just like the Gimme Paw. I'm bringing Gimme Paw back. After they get the million, Gimme Paw. Ooh, I'm bringing Gimme Paw back. It feels like
Gimme Paw is a great one.
It feels like Pauly Shore probably tried to bring it back in the 90s, but I'll try again.
Yeah, well, he was the Weasel, so it was tough to do.
The Weasel. I remember the Weasel.
The Weasel.
You know what else I remember? Jamming the radar. I mean, this is one of those things it's so obvious. I don't think anyone in history had ever attempted to actually jam radar with jam before. But then just the whole bit of it where it drips down the screen. It's almost like a video game end screen when you die and the blood drips down. And then Dark Helmet tastes. I always want to call him Darth Helmet. Dark Helmet just taste it. And the novelization says he's allergic to raspberries, and that's why he doesn't like it. But
jammed raspberry. There's only one man who would dare give me the raspberry. Lone Star.
There's not much you can say of that. That's one of the most original gags I've ever seen.
And here's the other thing I love. It looked so good. This could have looked so cheesy, and yet it looked so good. And then as the jam splatters, right? As the jam splatters, you're sitting here and you have freaking, that you could see the jar. You see the jar, it says jam. I mean, it's just so, and I just love the down periscope joke with it's just so good, dude.
Yeah, because you don't know what they're gonna do when they're gonna jam it, right? And then the fact that they just have somewhere apparently a giant can of jam just tucked into the Winnebago.
We're gonna jam it, you know. And what's great is that this leads right into the scene with Michael Winslow, which is I think one of the better, shorter scenes in the movie.
I mean, the bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps.
Bleeps, sweeps, and creeps, dude.
And Mel Brooks joked that he saved like $100 or $1,000 or whatever by casting Michael Winslow because he did his own sound effects. And if you don't know Michael Winslow, he's famously in the Police Academy movies and whatnot in the 80s. Did a lot of sounds, you know, world-class beatboxer, that kind of thing, like just a human sound machine, basically.
Yeah, his
so he
stand-up
made
comedy
all of the sound effects you hear. Yeah, I didn't hear that as much, but I love the bit where he's talking on the intercom or whatever. People probably don't remember. They might have still intercoms, and then they take it away, and he's still using the intercom voice, so they have to like rip it out and throw it across the room. Be like, God damn it, like, talking to your normal voice.
I mean, it's crazy just how they layer the shit to where it's so many, where it just keeps, some of these jokes just keep going and going. And that one in particular is one where, you know, just another something on top, another, you know, more frosting on the cake kind of.
Well, I mean, this is one of those scenes because we haven't even talked about what's probably the most famous part about this, and that's the asshole scene.
Oh, dude.
Huh?
I don't know how to express how funny this is every time I watch it. And apparently I didn't notice, but there's one guy that doesn't raise his hand. So there's one guy who's not an asshole. So technically he's not surrounded by assholes. He's just mostly surrounded by assholes.
Almost all the way. But the one thing that really gets me right away is that when he's like, you know, who's that guy? You know, Colonel Sanders says, oh, he's an asshole. But you know, Dark Helmet's response was, well, I know that. And I just think that's hilarious. And he's like, well, what's his name? And he's like, that is his name.
Yeah, no, dude, that is hilarious.
And then he's got the cousin.
And his cousin, yeah, Philip Asshole. Philip
right.
Asshole, which is a pretty, again, a little bit of a pun there, too. And
first class
the best part about after the, you know, I'm surrounded by assholes, he puts the helmet down.
Keep firing, assholes!
Yeah.
Again, taking the joke one more step, right?
That's not across their nose, not up it.
Like it never stops. You just keep taking the joke to the next level. And then obviously we see the Winnebago get away. They crash land on the desert planet. It's a little bit much when you have the whole, like, I guess it's almost like a meet cute, you would call it now, between Lone Star and Vespa. But we do get the whole ludicrous speed aspect. Blew my mind the first time I saw it.
This was so funny. And I love when they went plaid, dude. Like this was another very, very funny scene here. Not even when they run out of gas, like the fact that I knew we should have put more than $5 in it.
$5 yeah.
It's great.
You can't get away with just putting $5 more.
No, you definitely cannot. $5 is not like, yeah, it's 2 gallons if you're lucky. I mean, this is where we get the Colonel Sanders chicken joke. But everything here, especially when they come out of hyperactive, the whole, my brains are going into my feet and then pull the lever, like never pull this. And then just the image of Dark Helmet just flying across the bridge, helmet first.
When he gets up and he's like, how you doing? Dude, it's so
Take a
funny,
5?
bro.
Can we take a 5? And then he just collapses.
How about we take 5?
Smoke if you got him.
My notes were, this is basically out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon, but in the best way possible. That was my literal note. When he just, you know, he just gets like out of a slingshot right into that thing with it just in the, you can almost see the stars over his head, right? When he gets there, when he pulls up the joint, and the glasses are cracked. You could just picture that. It's almost Looney Tunes, but I mean that in the best way possible. It's like a live action cartoon, basically.
Sure. And I want to know how many replacement helmets he's got, you know?
He does go through a few of them. And again, here you set up the mall, the zoo, the circus, all that stuff, and that comes back around at the end in the escape scene. So just such good writing overall. I do like when we see the Winnebago crash. Again, score is really cool. And I will say that it looks like they crash in the desert from Beetlejuice, right? If you just look at that thing, that's definitely the desert from Beetlejuice. I know it's not really.
Sandworms. Yeah, hate them too.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've been talking about Dune, so they are there. And I will say when they're getting out of the Winnebago, John Candy as Barf goes to get up quick, and he forgets to unbuckle. He's like, oh, that's going to leave a mark.
Yeah.
A, that was an improv. B, I use that weekly probably. Like when I get hurt,
Right.
I still say, "Oh, it's gonna leave a mark." I didn't even remember that it was from this. Really, I've said it for so long, I forgot where it originally came from.
But that's a great one, Mills. But my favorite runner, I think, in this whole thing is Lone Star getting whacked in the face with Barf's tail. It is absolutely hilarious every single time, dude. And sometimes
Barf's tail does a lot of shit in the throughout the movie, which is funny. So yeah, that's a good element there, dude.
Got a mind of its own.
It does, yeah.
I love when he sleeps, so it's just sticking straight up. Anyways, it hitting Lone Star in the face is just so funny, dude, every single time.
I do like the luggage gag though, right? When they're going through the desert, there's a whole thing about the luggage. It keeps going and going. I think it's to set up how, much of a princess she is. But the idea that they just pull out this huge hairdryer that just says hot air in the middle of the desert in this huge trunk, it's the only thing in it.
Hairdryer, and I can't live without it. But he said, take only what you need to survive.
They set it up so perfectly with take only what you need. And
Dude,
then
Barf literally growls when they say it. So like he gives a little growl. It's really funny. It's kind of like Brian on Family Guy. Whenever he does dog stuff, it's funny. Here, whenever Barf does like dog stuff, whether it's wagging his tail or growling or whatever, it's always funny.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and he already had to carry her whole set of Her Royal Highness's matched luggage up the ladder while they were escaping, man. Fuck the man. I like that they burn it later on.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so it does serve a purpose. Again, great writing. You can tell a lot of polish went into the script because they really use every part. And one of the gags Mel Brooks is most proud of is this one where for the Spaceballs to find Lone Star in them, they watch Spaceballs, the early release film. I mean, on Mr. Rental, everything about this is just cool. You get the infinity shot where they look back and forth, like when is it now? And then the whole conversation between Sanders and Helmet.
Yeah,
It just breaks me, dude. And the fact that it's instant cassettes. They've kind of invented streaming, but with cassettes.
This whole scene could have gone terribly wrong, but it worked here. And this is probably the most questionable, like, will it work or not, scene in the movie, honestly, in my opinion, man. The whole thing is, well, you can get the movie now before it's finished being made. There's no way that would ever happen. You can get trailers and shit, but while it's being made, to be able to get the movie and watch it while it's happening, like I said, it could have went the way it did, or it could have went horribly wrong. It fortunately went the way it did, and it turned out to be hilarious. So,
and especially the part where they're watching it, and we see what I was talking about before when they go to ludicrous speed and Dark Helmet goes flying into the thing. It's like we'll never play this again. We'll never play this again. Just again, there's always a joke on top of the joke. And I guess we do get the scene at night in the desert where Lone Star and Vesper are bonding, doing the stars thing, and I guess you kind of have to have that right to set up the romance, but it is paid off with the Virgin alarm a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
It's designed to go off before he does.
That's right.
You like the sleep mode, and honestly, my thought when I watched it, I was like, "Damn, dude, I wish I had a sleep mode where I could just flip a switch and automatically sleep. Like that would solve so many problems in my life. I could just sleep.
It's like that. Working. As much time as I spend commuting, I spend as much time preparing to sleep and trying to sleep as I do as much, but way too much time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's the percentage is very poor.
Dude, I wish I was like a phone where I could just plug into an
I
hour.
Probably take Prince Valium if that's what it took, dude. I've tried not to, but I do remember being tired of trying to sleep without a Tylenol PM.
Well, you know what? Now that you mention it, I guess that this has been attempted in various ways over the years, and eventually, probably being that everything is now so technology driven, something like that might come into play in the future. Hey man, you do this and you go right to sleep and set your time for when you want to wake up, and boom, you get your whatever 7-8 hours that you need, or you can probably program in your sleep, dude.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
16th century European history was pretty. I remember exactly putting me to sleep in college, so I should probably go buy one of those old textbooks or something. That might help. That's a good idea. And, in the desert, they are saved by the Dinks. They are the Jawas here that you would see in Star Wars. And Soup, here's a fun one for you. Somebody plays one of these guys, also plays an Ewok in Return of the Jedi, and appears in Bad Santa. Who is it?
Is it Tony Cox?
Of course it's Tony.
Or is it Warwick Davis?
It is Tony Cox, but not bad, dude. Not bad. And I love that going through the desert. You know, everyone's got desires when you're in the desert, and the 4 desires are water, oil, room service. I would say room service is by far the most practical because they would definitely have water and they might have oil.
I don't think you have water.
So shouldn't we all pray for room service, I guess?
Yes.
Do you have water in the desert, though? I think
room service has water, but I mean, so that's the whole point.
Room service
if you get water, you don't get room service, but if you have room service, they have water.
Then you get water and food and shit, right?
Yeah, like that's a better ask, right? It's like asking for infinite wishes or whatever. So I think Vespa won that one.
Sure, yeah, dude, good call. Yeah.
It's just funny little bits here when they wake up. It's like, oh, when we get to Disneyland, that's way funnier now because Disney actually owns Star Wars. So this is a joke that is even kind of funnier now than it used to be. And to get a shout out to Temple of Doom, which makes sense because Lone Star is dressed like Indiana Jones. So that's kind of another call out there. And then we meet Yogurt, and he is the everlasting know-it-all, and he's also just plain Yogurt. But I want to buy a Schwartz ring, dude. I'm not a ring guy, but I think I should get a Schwartz ring. And I also love the red eyes and the Yogurt statue.
Yes. And the smoke coming out. And yes. The one thing that I noticed, though, he clearly walking on his knees. And I think when I was younger, I didn't really notice it that much, but clearly walking on the knees here. And but it works, dude. This was a great scene. You know, the mention of the short, you hoiding me? It was just so great.
Then you get the merchandising. And I remember, again, not only do I love this as a kid, but you see it throughout the whole flick, even if it's not here. Spaceballs the toilet paper, Spaceballs the sheet, Spaceballs the shaving cream, Spaceballs the shaving mirror. I love the gag, and it's especially, well, it's great because that was the one thing they weren't allowed to do was merchandise. So they could talk about merchandising, but they couldn't merchandise because it might have cut into the Star Wars sales or whatever. So that was the deal he cut with Lucas as far as being able to spoof this the way they do, because they can even say the Force. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you can't even say the actual. They were welcome. The Millennium Falcon appears in the diner scene. Like they definitely had to go ahead. Even a couple of the escape pod scenes are scenes that were filmed for the original Star Wars they didn't use. So very cool. But I loved all this. But if you look closely, the coloring book and the other joint and the lunchbox are both Transformers. Like you can see Optimus Prime in the cereal. It's 100% sugar.
Yes, definitely. What I like about this whole thing is, like, you know, with the whole merchandising thing, none of this Spaceballs, whatever the fuck, comes up before this in the movie. You don't see it, but then after that scene, you see it everywhere. You know,
Spaceballs the sheet when Scrooge is under the sheet with the twins. That's a great one. Like as a kid, I would have loved I had Transformer sheets. I would have totally had Spaceball sheets. If that was an option, I would have asked for those for Christmas or something, totally. So I get maybe why George Lucas held them out on the merchandising. I would have been totally.
I need to see if I can find. I'm going to look for it. I'm going to try
and find it. It's on Etsy or something. I get a Redbubble somewhere. Like you can find Spaceballs the sheet on that.
I want a Spaceballs the T-shirt. I bet you I can find one. If I do, I'm gonna buy it and wear it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna cop Spaceballs the toilet paper though. Like you don't need printed or colored toilet paper.
If I did,
I remember when that was the thing. That's not a cool
paper. I wouldn't want to use it. You know.
For a minute, it was a flex to have the toilet paper that looked like money or whatever. So it looked like you were like unrolling money when not my favorite or whatever. In here, you also get another classic scene, combing the desert. And again, it just takes the literal. Look, it seems so obvious now, right? Oh, comb the desert. How did no one ever think of this before? But just the fact with the ace combs, and then they give the black guys the pick. I mean,
well, they didn't find shit. But what I like about this is you're right, man. A lot of this movie is that literal comedy, and I think that's one thing that kind of drives, you know, a lot of this movie and a lot of the jokes in this movie.
Even the yogurt jokes, you know, I'm just playing yogurt. You know, it's the simplest form of the joke, but that's usually the funniest. You don't want to have to explain the joke. The simpler it is, the funnier it is, because the more people get the joke. I think, anyways. I mean, it's, you know, it all works so well in that aspect. And, you know, you mentioned it before, putting a dark helmet in that other helmet.
Dude, so good.
The desert helmet, not as dark.
Desert helmet's so funny. It works so well with the short sleeves.
his helmet is still so big.
Oh,
but
it's
I like
amazing,
it's got the
dude.
front face flap now. You know, it's
Yeah.
just kind of like a little like a bird cage almost or something. How it opens in the front like that.
Yeah, he's got a different set, a different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that all lifted the
What are
whole.
they
You know,
preparing for? Why are we always preparing? Just go. Yeah, I like that one too. You know,
and
It's
again,
a
they
good
use
running.
the exact same technology for the speeder and everything as they do in the original Star Wars. It's all on mirrors and everything like that, so it looks a lot like Star Wars, which helps. It just sells it more. I think that's really important without going over the top. And then you get the whole bit where they find Yogurt's joint, and he hates yogurt. You know, there's two sides to every Schwartz and all that. He lures Vespa out and everything. I like this whole scene really. Maybe the favorite part of it is during the training. You know, when Lone Star's using the ring and then he drops the statue on Barf's foot and he just flattens it and you see it. And it's again like Looney Tunes, right? It's like a cartoon. You see his foot,
Yeah, it comes
and
out
it's
huge,
just super
flat,
flat. And then
and-
John Candy walks away, and I'm pretty sure he's obviously wearing like a scuba flap or something like that. So that's why his foot's doing that. But it's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the training is not exactly like you know, Yoda training. It's not that detailed. It's real, but you don't need it. You know, this is a spoof comedy movie, so even a little bit of it, you understand what's going on. I think that's the only thing you really see them do is try and lift a statue, right? Or
Yeah, pretty much. Like he reads the. I like when Yoga goes to read the medallion, and like you think he's reading it, he's just clearing his throat.
That was great.
That's a good gag right there. Yeah, but then even when he raises it, he's like, oopsie daisy, oopsie doozy, or when you could tell it's just Mel Brooks just riffing, basically. You know, I wonder how many versions they shot of that, but you know, Candy just absolutely sells it going away. And I just love the fact that, you know, Dark Helmet hates yogurt, he hates raspberries, but apparently likes strawberries because he hates yogurt even with strawberries.
even with strawberry, yeah.
You know, and I guess you have the whole, you know, two sides to every Schwartz. I mean, that's fine. I guess it kind of pays it off a little bit later. You get the bit where they all leave, and you know, Yogurt gives Lone Star the ring, the fortune cookie, which pays off, and then you get the classic Mel Brooks. God willing, we'll all meet again in Spaceballs 2, the search for more money.
Yes.
I love the tag. I don't mind like the sheer just nakedness of it. It's fun. And they tried to make a sequel for a lot of years, and it never worked out for one reason or another. It's one I would have liked to have seen that we didn't get. In one, there was an animated series. The
one thing that I thought was great, and not that this is about Robin Hood Men in Tights or comparing the two, but I will say that Mel Brooks's characters in both movies are awesome. They're top notch. And same thing kind of here with this one. He kind of saved Robin Hood Men in Tights to a large degree. And then, you know, you get another great run of character out of him here with this one as well.
I liked him in Men in Tights, but he didn't have that many scenes. I wish he would have had more scenes. Here he gets lots of scenes. But yeah, he really absolutely slays here. And the other thing we get here is a scene that was apparently improv kind of on the day. Dark Helmet playing with his dolls.
No, you are mine. Not so fast, Helmet. Lone Star.
Yes, it's me. I'm here to save my girlfriend. Hi, honey.
Now you are going to die. Psst. Oh!
Oh!
Especially as a kid or whatever. And, you know, Colonel Sanders coming in like, no, sir, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again. Everything about this is just, and this is an improv that apparently Moranis just did on the day. Like, I don't know how many takes, but it's amazing, right?
I mean, it's just hilarious, even what he's doing, you know. And he's like, you know, got the princess.
He's doing all the voices, but it's how you play with dolls when you're whatever action figures. Like, oh yeah, that's probably no.
I guess, man.
Oh, your helmet is so big.
Yeah, dude,
I think it busted in on. It was almost like he got caught beating off the way he reacted.
Pretty much. That's basically that's pretty much the long and short of it, but it's so good. Like, so that's one of the better scenes from Sanders too.
Yeah, but I didn't see you playing with your dolls again.
No, sir.
So this happened before, which is hilarious too.
Yeah, that he has like a Lone Star doll or whatever. That whole bit is super awesome. And then because they have Vespa, they torture her for the air shield code. I mean, everything about this is pretty spectacular, down to the, obviously the combination of the air code. You have the doctor come in. I love this golf doctor. If you actually see him walking away, he has like the Payne Stewart plaid pants on underneath. His caddy's there with him the whole time. Like he's Cosmo Kramer.
He's going
and
back
the
to
chick's
play,
like 6 feet tall. Like she is so much taller than him and everything. It's just so like I think the dude's not even standing on his tiptoes to motorboat her when they turn off the movie, which is also a funny gag when they accidentally turn off the movie.
Yeah. The thing that's funny about the whole golf thing is like, towards the end or at the end of the scene, he's like, go back to the golf course and work on your putts. I just think that because of the putts.
That's the double entendre right there. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, for what it's worth, not the caddy, but the nurse, I bet she gives a great helmet.
She definitely probably gives
a great helmet.
One thing that's kind of funny and underrated here at the beginning of the scene is when Scroob's in the bathroom and he gets a call on the wall. It's like, oh, no call. It's on unlisted wall or whatever. But then, like back then, you never could have gotten a call in the bathroom. Now it's totally possible. Like people take calls in the bathroom all the time. So that's something I think actually works better now. Like now you can totally get an unexpected call in the bathroom. Back then it was like, oh my God, what if this was a thing? Now it's commonplace.
Yeah, see, I'm afraid to drop my phone in the toilet. So unless I'm sitting on the toilet, I'm probably not going to mess with my phone. But if you're so worried about getting a call in the bathroom, why have the screen there right in front of the pisser too?
So obviously all the walls. I guess all the walls are just like
because he's like, never call me on this wall.
An unlisted wall, which doesn't work as well because back in the day, like you had to pay extra for the unlisted number. Now I guess cell phones are generally unlisted, so maybe that one's on. But back in the day, it was a flex to have an unlisted number.
Another funny thing about calling on the wall is the way that she casually checks out his, junk, and then he stops up real quick and it was like, shit,
and she gets a little kind of grin or whatever at the end. Yeah, that's a great.
She was the perfect actress for the wall gag. She had very provocative eyes with how she was doing things. I thought it was awesome. Every scene she had, she was basically great.
Great face acting, yeah.
Great face acting.
No wonder Scotty beamed her twice last night, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I heard it was wonderful. And I mean, the whole bit with the nose job is funnier than it should be, right? The idea that they're just going to give her back her original nose. I mean, they go way over the top. Like in Ocean's 13, she's wearing the Brody or whatever. Like, I mean, that is like a Rumpelstiltskin-esque nose that they're going to give her back.
Oh yeah, definitely went exaggerating on that one, man. But she already had a nose job. It was her Sweet 16,
Right, but it's not like then she couldn't just get another nose job then, right? Like she could have had to rock the nose for a week and then just got it redone, right?
Yeah, really.
Assuming they weren't going to kill her, but they didn't look like they were killers. The combination gag, the way they set it up with, man, that's a kind of combination idiot would have on his luggage. And then when Scroob comes back in, and he's like, that's amazing. I've got the same combination on my luggage.
Oh, yeah.
Top tier Mel Brooks delivery, and the way that Sanders and Dark Helmet look at each other is just, it just sings. It's so perfect.
What's the combination?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
That's amazing. I've got the same combination on my luggage.
And then we have the whole fact that Lone Star and Barf actually spring him. I love that when they kind of capture the dudes or whatever, somehow Barf managed to make the uniform so his tail can come out. And then when they're breaking into places, if you look closely, they don't have a key card or whatever. They have just a giant skeleton key, like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or Zelda or something. They just have a big ass key that they use to get into everywhere. And then, obviously you have the bit of Daphne Zuniga's Princess Vespa being a base. Maybe a little bit long, but it's fine because then she gets her moment when her hair gets shot and then she just goes Rambo on the dudes.
Right. Nobody knows.
Dude, she has like the great shot, and I love that it's like for some reason her shots are hitting harder than Lone Star's. So yeah, that was a nice little bit. Although they never let us know how they got in because it was molded shut from the laser, and then they left the key inside. So we don't know how they made it in there, but I would like to.
Well, I mean, mostly because they captured their stunt doubles.
To do with it.
The huge party. I mean, that gag is another classic, right? Just that
I love the
idea,
stunt
like,
doubles. You know, you got the
because you
dude
can see
smoking
it
the
when they
shit.
jump if
and
you're
shit.
looking
Yeah.
for it. But just the fact that the princess is like a Hitler dude with the mustache, and it's like it's just absolutely classic. It's like Dominatrix looks the same, but she's got the perfect like, are we done with this already? Like, are we going on to the next scene? What's the deal here? Everything about that works, but probably not really a surprise given our feelings on the flick. And then we kind of get the big climax. Spaceball 1 goes to planet Druidia. They put in the code. They open the air shield, and then Spaceball 1 transforms into Mega Maid. When I was a kid, this is right in the peak period of the original Transformers run. So yeah, this was super cool to me. And the idea that she was just a giant maid or whatever. One trivia question before we go on. Apparently, in the novelization or whatever, Mega Maid had a line. She had one line. It was very short. What do you think her line was? Soup Deucer. If Mega Maid had one line, what would it be?
I like blowing better. Like she
That's
went from
not
suck
bad.
to blow.
Jamie G, how about you?
Suck harder.
The correct answer is I don't do Windows, but I liked your answers. Those were pretty good. Did you like the old Transformer bit, right? I mean, it was unexpected, but super cool. And just the visual of her with the vacuum, with the Statue of Liberty head, sucking everything out was just, I think, again, super original, right? I never would have thought of that, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it was very cool.
They were sitting back in the Winnebago, like watching it happen, and they're like, "Oh man, it's a maid." And there was one line, something when it started to change, and shit, I can't remember
the Metamorphosis line. It's a Kafka reference. Is that what you're going for? Like Reddy Kafka, like yeah, it's a whole reference about like a man who transforms into a giant insect, and it's a Kafka, and Mel Brooks has talked about that one. It's not the first time he's made that joke, but for our age, it's a Transformers. Again, we saw the merch have Transformers on it, so they definitely know what they're doing. And then we get the whole suck to blow thing, and which is especially good because the three main Spaceballs are there on the space on Mega Maid. Suck. And then, Lone Star, he's trying to do the Schwartz and go from suck to blow. And they're like, Schwartz. Come on, Schwartz.
I just think it's hilarious that there's an actual physical, like, huge on-off button.
Why would they build reverse? I guess
right.
Well, actually, you're right. To blow it into their planet, though, they would need reverse.
Yeah, they need the reverse.
They would actually need reverse, so that's not even a blood hole. That's on me.
Right, but you would think that'd be like, a button inside or something, but like a big manual switch on the outside of the thing, but I guess it made it work.
See, what would have been funnier for the time if they would have had like the club. Remember the club for like your car or whatever? They put the club on there, and somehow I don't know, we worked the club in.
For the cars?
Yeah, for your steering wheel, right? So like you couldn't do the joint like a bike lock, like a big U lock or whatever. Whatever. They reverse it, right, and that's a very fun thing. And then they infiltrate going through Mega Maid's ear. Again, pretty cool. Lone Star gets out, does this thing. I love the guy that he gets with the Spaceballs, the shaving cream, just because he sprays it in his eyes, and the guy, and then he sprays it in his mouth. I've done shaving cream in my mouth. It sucks. I might go down from that.
Yeah. It'll fuck you all up, man. But I like what the dialogue right there, like they're like one line or whatever, and they're like, "What are you doing in here?" And he's like, "This," and just gets him with it, dude.
Yes, the way it starts in the eyes, and the guy plays it so dramatically, right? Like the Wicked Witch melting in the eyes. Like, oh no!
One of the things I always remembered from this movie was being able to just the Falcon death grip. Like that's a funny thing that happens here.
Star Wars, like the Vulcan neck pinch or whatever. But the idea that the guard's like, no, stupid, it's a lower right here, and like tells him. That's just super brilliant.
It's Star Trek, but he actually gives them instructions and then falls victim to it. So classic that style comedy.
And then we get the face-off between Lone Star and Dark Helmet, and there are just so many iconic lines in this. Like, I especially love, obviously, and I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Now let's see how well you handle it.
Yes, a very quotable line that I've used many, many times in other situations in life.
Oh, dude, it's a keeper, and it's done so well with the voice and everything. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. I love this, and then you get the setup with, I'm your father's brother's uncle's cousin's sister's roommate.
Right. See, that doesn't work as well for me on the rewatch. It's okay. Obviously that's a whole, Star Wars thing to Darth Vader, but I wish there was a better punchline. Like that it at least had some random.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to put some kind of relation in there, but not,
right,
that type.
right. So inconsequential,
yeah.
It didn't matter. But I feel like there was a funnier way, even if it was like it ended with like, oh, that chick you hooked up with one time in college or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like instead of like your uncle's barber or whatever it was.
But I think it was still like, funny though, because it
was funny. I like it. Especially if you know the Star Wars.
Well, everyone kind of knows that. Even if you didn't see Star Wars, everyone kind of knows the famous.
Right, you're spoiled on the Darth Vader
is. People kind of know that.
You know what? I'm guessing that even people that have not ever seen, which there probably aren't many, but people who have never seen Star Wars still know the Luke, I'm your father thing.
That's what if
they haven't heard it, they've definitely done it into a fan.
Was that Tommy Boy? Which I remember Chris Farley very famously doing that.
It's either that or Black. It's one of the two.
I don't think it's Beverly Hills Ninja for what it's worth. And then you also get the.
Have you done it? Who hasn't done it?
I've done it too.
Yeah, we three kids are making the gold, and I also love
talked into a fan.
Lone Star. Now you see that evil will always triumph because good is dumb. That's a T-shirt line right there. Evil will always triumph because good is dumb. Like that's whatever. You all know the people who would wear that T-shirt in college or whatever.
I'd rock one right now.
Yeah, I probably would too. I'd be that dude. And then even the ultimate payoff of him shooting dudes in the groin with the Schwartz whatnot. He's like, say goodbye to your two best friends. And I don't mean your pals on the Winnebago. And that's when he uses the mirror and everything. I mean, that whole bit works. And then the idea that even, every time Dark Helmet tries to get him, like even when he tries to, like, he goes at him, he just does the, just stiff arm joint.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just swinging the after he steals the ring.
Hilarious. Yeah.
The whole, punching him right back into the self-destruct button. And the whole self-destruct button into the cancellation button is all brilliant. Again, just absolutely brilliant. It brings back around all the circus stuff, the freaks, the zoo, everything, and everyone getting into the escape pods. The song plays, and man, does the song absolutely slap. Soup, any thoughts on the soundtrack here? You get this, they kind of the main theme, Spaceballs by the Spinners. What you got is what you need, and all we do is dirty deeds. I mean,
that's definitely the best one on here. I mean, unless you like Bon Jovi, because there is the big Bon Jovi hit in the movie, which is probably the main or only real like big song that people would know in here. Other than that, it's just score, I think, pretty much, and it's well put together. But yeah, not much of a soundtrack really to speak of, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple other things they barely play, but the one I did like is Hot Together by the Pointer Sisters. When you come into Scroob under the sheets with the Doublemint twins. We didn't even mention before with the Chew Your Gum Girls. I always say Chew Your Gum Girls.
There's also the headphone.
Yeah, there's a Van Halen joint too. Yeah. Good enough plays for I think when they go into the diner or whatever.
The one when Princess Vespa, she has the earphones that look like layers.
Oh yeah, it's like Lady Foxfire or whatever. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I guess there is a bit of a soundtrack here, but
the score carries it and the theme though. I mean, because again, like we didn't mind in I was gonna say Prince of Thieves, but Men in Tights. That we're Men in Tights, manly men in tights. We walk around the forest looking for fights or whatever. Here, it's just better. This is just a better version.
This one slaps. This is a classic 80s jam.
I love listening to it. I've listened to it multiple times.
Playlist.
The guy can walk the dog like, we just wizard DTs with the space.
It almost reminds me of like the Weird Science.
Yeah, it does remind me of Weird Science a little bit. That's a good call. It
reminds me of Weird Science.
I actually have a Spotify playlist that has a bunch of shit like that from like 80s movies and stuff, like Labyrinth.
Oh, nice.
So I'm gonna apply this song to that, I mean, put it right on there with St. Elmo's Fire, that kind of stuff.
With St. Elmo's Fire. All right. We're getting our Emilio Estevez on tonight. And there's very cool parts at the end when they hear that there's a cancellation button. And I love that when Dark Helmet finds, he's like, fuck, even in the future, nothing works. There have only ever been, the Spaceballs is rated PG. There have only ever been 3 other movies rated PG that dropped an F-bomb. We have covered one of them. We have covered one of them. Soup, what is that movie we have already covered rated PG that dropped an F-bomb?
Yeah. And I feel like I should definitely know this one.
You definitely should.
And I know I definitely do. I just probably can't think of it right now. I know it's on the tip of my tongue or nose or cock or something.
If you say it 3 times, it might help you.
It's fucking Beetlejuice. You're right, but I thought Beetlejuice was a PG-13.
It was a PG. The PG-13 existed, but this was in this weird period where it wasn't quite there yet. But and I mean that's great when they hear the cancellation, but they all slide down the stairs, and then it's out of order, and then the countdown when they skip 6, like just checking. Have a nice, and then at the end, have a nice day. Thank you. That whole bit is just, I mean, it's perfect, right? And the whole bit with the bear, like trying to click the bear's claws like a seatbelt.
Right, and this works in a movie like this, and it works perfectly in a movie like this. But the logical brain of mine that I sometimes have thinks, why would you even have a self-destruct button, and why would it be that easily accessible?
Oh, because it's playing on Star Wars, how they have that one, like, the one pipe, you drop the torpedo down and it can kill the whole thing. So
right,
that's
but a little more complicated than just,
it was more complex than that, if you want to be fair. You're
a little more complex.
You're definitely...
But either way, in a movie like this, it doesn't matter, because that's kind of what it is.
One of the most random references to the late 80s is probably when Sanders, I think, says, it's irreversible. And Scroop's like, oh, like my raincoat? Back in the late 80s, early 90s, reversible clothing was a thing. Like you could turn it out and wear it one way or whatever. So that's a super random joke that might not land, but that was a thing for a minute.
Yeah, reversible clothes, man.
I have a reversible something still, and
windbreaker.
It's not a windbreaker.
Yeah, it'd be like solid on one side and then striped on the other or something. Like I remember a couple T-shirts. Like it was definitely a thing.
It might be like a jacket or something. Yeah, I do. I have a hoodie that's reversible, and it's like one thing on the one side and one on the other, and you can just turn it. And it still has pockets and everything. So on both sides. So like however you rock it, it works. Like so you can actually use it for like 2 different hoodies, and it's still just the one hoodie. So
I'm there for it too. I mean, I like it. I feel like reversible clothing was designed for people who just wanted to do half the laundry they need to do, but that's a conversation for a different day. And that kind of brings
I feel like that doesn't work because you still have to, because it could still get stank.
Smell, but that's the point. I mean, that was the idea of the joke behind the logic. That kind of brings us to the denouement here. We wrap it up. Lone Star and Barf return Vespa and Dot to their crib. They go back to the castle. We're going to do the wedding again. And they're kind of sad or whatever. So Lone Star and Barf, they go to a diner because they got to eat. They got to fill up the joint. They burned off all the fuel. And this is where we get the very famous scene where they can get the space soup, space special, or the space cleavage. And apparently somebody got the special, and it's John Hurt from Alien kind of redoing or parroting his role in Alien when he gets the chest buster. It comes out, and it does a little song and dance number here. This is a parody of Michael J. Frog from Looney Tunes, if you've ever seen. It definitely played in Animaniacs or whatever, so that's what he's doing with the top hat. Like, hello, my baby, hello, my honey, hello, my do. Like, I've definitely seen the animated version of that before.
Maybe
Yep. So that's what they're going for here, and it's super funny because it is John Hurt, again, who this happened to in Alien, and that's why you get the not again line.
Yeah, a nice little tidbit here, man. Since we do talk about Fish a lot, is they have done that cover a cappella, several times randomly. So they like to end a set sometimes.
Or start a set.
Not very common, though. What's that?
Yeah, they'll start a set with it too.
Well, also, this diner does have Spaceballs a placemat, so I'm always a big fan of whenever they have Spaceballs a placemat. I will definitely give them my business. It's just at the very end. I love that there's a door there that the dude goes through. So, like, it's not the first time this happened. And then just the way Lone Star and Barf get up, like,
check, please.
Yeah, check, please. Well, he switches it over. He's like, well, you got to be careful about the space special, man. Sometimes the space special might give you a special surprise. So I guess it's safer in space to order the soup, you know?
Honestly, if the waitresses looked like that, I would probably take my chances going there. Like, I enjoy Waffle House, so take from that what you will.
Maybe the space special is either, you know, the alien popping out of you, like, and doing that thing, or it could be you get to hook up with the waitress. So,
I
mean,
think it's fair to say we consider this to be Space Waffle House is where they're at, basically.
It basically is.
Seems pretty. Yeah,
Nothing wrong with
I'm pretty
that.
sure you could smoke in there. And...
Yeah, just trying to set the terrain, basically.
If they have the air conditioning set to like 40 degrees, then yeah, it would be.
I love that about Waffle House. Don't even complain about that. I love that about Waffle House.
On that, man.
If you don't like it, just make sure you're not sitting under the vent. It's not.
Or make sure you don't go in there soaking fucking wet.
That's a good rule of thumb anywhere you go into.
Yes.
Anyway, back to Planet Geridia, we find out that Lone Star didn't even take the $1 million. He just took 248 space bucks for lunch, gas, and tolls. Apparently, this is a parody of It Happened One Night in 1934. So it's another level going on. I didn't realize where this was coming from, but you get the whole bit where she's going to get married. And, Prince Valium's like, oh, where have you been? I didn't even realize you were gone.
He was just taking a nap, dude.
He was
just a little
standing nap.
It was a self-induced snooze.
He could probably survive a day of tailgating at the Buffalo Bills parking lot at least by just, if you could fake standing up sleeping, you're about halfway there. And then we get the whole bit back in the Winnebago. Barf opens a fortune cookie. Yogurt appears. Lone Star is a prince. They have a can of liquid Schwartz right in the glove box. Pour it right in the fuel joint, and they are off. The only problem I have is it's really dangerous having a way to pour fuel right into your engine, like right in the middle of like where you eat and live.
I'm riding shotgun, yeah, man. But
I feel like maybe you should at least go in the back to deploy it. But everything about this is awesome, and just the idea that it's just liquid Schwartz.
Yeah, man.
Liquid Schwartz.
One thing about fortune cookies, man. Remember, open it before you eat it.
And he did. And almost for a minute, I thought he was gonna. Wouldn't even that be funny if he pooped Yoda out or something? All right, I don't even want to.
What's hilarious is like, man, I'm starving. It's like, oh, I got that fortune cookie.
That's all he's got is a fortune cookie.
I mean, that's not really gonna fill you up.
Like you can get a pie or a diner always pre-made pie. So let's get a pie.
It's like one potato chip, dude.
Hey, man, it could be like having ketchup packets,
Or it could be.
Yeah, I mean, you had ketchup packets this whole time.
There ain't no more.
And it's not quite as good as licorice and shreddies, but
I can maybe think about that at a different point. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm down with the red vines or whatever. Then we kind of get the whole little Planet of the Apes ending for the Spaceballs, where they are on the planet. You kind of see it, spoiler for the end of Planet of the Apes. And then you see the apes like, oh, no, not Spaceballs or whatever. And I also liked when you saw the Statue of Liberty head flying through space. It looked a lot like the shot for the end of the Transformers movie, the animated one from 85, I think, with Unicron's head flying through. Like, I thought that maybe was what they were going, doing a Transformers thing. But pretty cool here with the Planet of the Apes bit. And then you get the super happy ending. And most importantly, the short wedding. And guys, I've been in a wedding where they didn't explicitly call it Spaceballs, but they literally did the short wedding, and the actual ceremony was less than 5 minutes.
Do you? Yeah. Do you? Cool, you're married.
That was basically it. Everything else was legal property, stuff you had to say.
The wedding ceremony sucks, man. Screw all that. I mean, the reception on a wedding is usually pretty cool, but yeah, I mean, sitting through that shit, I'd prefer do you?
Getting seated and like having to walk into the next room took way longer than the ceremony itself.
Yeah, and another thing about the Planet of the Apes thing, man, is I like how perfectly positioned. Like, where's the no other debris, just the head and the torch, like perfectly placed. So that was done well. Also, even though that would never happen, probably. I mean, the odds are very.
Well, you had to pay off the actual like what you're going for with the the Planet
And it works. And then and then they're crawling out of the nose, So like, man, Spaceballs were not. There goes the planet. They say.
There goes the planet, dude. And that's, I think was maybe one of the taglines, for the movie. Honestly, like I really feel it was like "There goes the planet," which is a good tagline.
It's a great tagline. And anything else, guys, about Spaceballs that you dudes want to talk about before we move on?
I will mention that apparently the original title was Planet Moron. Would that have been better?
No, Spaceballs.
No, I think Spaceballs is the right move, man.
Yeah, it just worked out that like they heard that someone else was going to make something like Morons from Outer Space. So they decided to change the name, so they just wanted Space something. And then Mel Brooks spilled a drink and yelled balls. And then the other writer was like Spaceballs. And so that's where it came from.
Perfect.
Do you like that? I mean, that works, right? I mean, and then that's why the dude just have balls heads and they're just kind of random balls jokes, but it's not like all the way through. So I think that's pretty cool. And one thing I don't know, because I've never owned one or even ridden in one, but apparently Tesla, like if you own a Tesla, they have like ludicrous speed and stuff.
Like it's a thing. Do they go to plaid?
They have plaid speed too. They have light speed, ridiculous speed, ludicrous speed, and plaid speed. Plaid speed as an inspiration for naming their acceleration modes. And homage to this movie, Tesla has ludicrous mode for acceleration beyond its insane mode, in plaid mode, and over the top ludicrous.
Is that safe for highway travel?
I don't know. That's an auto driving, whatever, I guess. And
I already don't trust it.
Yeah, well, the people have fallen asleep and like gotten around, like the car's been driving down the street or the highway and they're sleeping.
I've gotten a ride home in a Tesla, and people weren't necessarily looking to drive and just plugged it in, and it just went there. It's pretty cool. Well, we're regular dudes, but this right here is anything but regular. This is Spaceballs, the episode. So I think we need to hand out a couple of awards. First up is our funniest moment of the movie.
Why didn't somebody tell me my ass was so big?
Dudes, what was your favorite joke, quote, or moment? You can't pick just an entire scene. You have to be a little bit more specific. Mills, show us how it's done.
This is not easy, but I have to go with the entire bit when they watch Spaceballs, the movie, to try to find where, our heroes have gone.
Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened to then?
We passed then.
When?
Just now. We're at now.
Go back to then.
When?
Now.
Now?
Now.
I can't.
Why?
We missed it.
When?
Just now.
When will then be now?
Soon.
How soon?
Absolutely incredible. Cracks me up every time. How about yourself, Jamie G? Funniest moment, bit, joke, what have you?
There's a lot in here to choose from, but I think I'm going to just lean into I'm surrounded by assholes.
Who is he?
He's an asshole, sir.
I know that. What's his name?
That is his name, sir. Asshole. Major asshole.
And his cousin?
He's an asshole, too, sir. Gunner's mate, first class, Philip Asshole.
How many assholes we got on this ship, anyhow?
Yo!
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
And he's mad because we're getting too close. I said, and so then he realizes, guys, he's cross-eyed. But then it's on top of that, he's literally an asshole. His last name is Asshole. So that to me was just pure gold, man.
It's really hard to pick a funniest out of this whole thing because I could probably just list a bunch and they'd be equal. But right here off the top of my head, I'm either going to say just quick, not a whole scene, funniest line or whatever in a quick little bit. Either the bleeps and sweeps and the creeps, because that's something I use in life a lot, or I bet she gives great helmet, or any of the helmet jokes. But everything about the movie is hilarious, so.
That's good soup!
I bet she does give a great helmet.
I mean, I heard she did, so one day I'll find out, hopefully.
Yeah, go work on your putts.
Yeah, I gotta go work on my putts, dude. Practice my putts.
I think it's time to hand out Spaceballs, the trophy to our favorite characters. Dudes, the criteria are yours, but I need you to give us your favorite character from Spaceballs. Basically, I'm looking for Spaceballs the MVP. So you are up first.
Spaceballs the MVP is really a tough call between Barf and Dark Helmet, but I'm going to go ahead and say Moranis with Dark Helmet's going to take it.
Jamie G, how about yourself?
It's make that a second. It's Lord Helmet. Dude, don't go over his helmet. Don't ever go over his helmet.
I have to third it up here. The Rick Moranis physical comedy here. Think about it. Most of the time you hear physical comedy, it's some guy who is wacky or something, right? And throwing himself all over the place. Here it's just personal pain. Just hitting his head on things and just, it's so subtle and not over the top, but it is an amazing physical comedy performance. So 100%. This Moranis makes this movie.
Yeah.
No other way to say it.
Honorable.
He's MVP.
Yeah, honorable nod to Mel Brooks also himself. Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, honorable
and
nod.
Candy. Mel Brooks, John Candy, Pullman. Everyone else is great. It just feels like, there's a bunch of people in tier 2, but
well, also something we didn't mention, or we might have, but I might have forgot. But real quick, Mel Brooks actually took on 2 roles in this movie too, which is kind of cool. He was Yogurt and Scroob. So I mean, got to give him a nod.
He did double dip, dude.
And characters are great. So
the Mel Brooks double dip.
Yeah.
So you think you're sponge-worthy?
Yes, I think I'm sponge-worthy. I think I'm very sponge-worthy.
You're nuts with these sponges.
Run down your case for me again.
She said I wasn't sponge-worthy. Wouldn't waste a sponge on me.
In honor of Elaine Bennis, creator of the second greatest system of all time, we always determine our featured review whether or not it was sponge-worthy. Mills, update us on the sponge supply and tell us if you think Spaceballs is sponge-worthy.
Jamie G, I have 3.5 sponges. You have 3 sponges. And the soup has 2.5 sponges. And as far as this being sponge-worthy, to paraphrase Jay-Z, oh, fuck yeah. How about yourself?
100%. I'm so happy to give this thing a sponge. Love Spaceballs. It's absolutely awesome. This is a ton of fun to do. Good excuse to watch it. Awesome to talk about it. It is worth the sponge, the good sponge too. Fresh sponge.
I would subscribe. Amazon always wants you to subscribe to the thing instead of just buying the one. I would subscribe to this sponge. I'd commit to it. Soup, how about yourself? Is this sponge worthy?
Well, I mean, as usual, I have the least amount of sponges, but if I have even one left, man, I mean, this is a movie to spend a sponge on. So without question, absolutely. And I think it's originally Red Fox. I know it more from a sample in one of the Beastie Boys songs. And if it's going to be that kind of party, I'll stick my dick in the mashed potatoes. This is definitely fucking sponge worthy.
I love a Beastie Boys reference.
Good call there, guys. Well, we're going to end our discussion of Spaceballs by handing out grades. We're grading this one on a scale of 0 to 100 space bucks. Soup, you got the honor of going first here. Give her a grade.
I mean, I'd give it the full million, but I'll settle for 100, man. Can't even do 200 or something for gas and whatever. But yeah, 100, if that's the max, I'm taking it, dude, because Spaceballs is just solid. It's always been there. And, it's just one of those that I can always go to, man. And
gas, food, and tolls, baby.
Yeah. Worth it all, man. Spaceballs is top notch for me, man.
Jamie G?
I'm just gonna give this a solid 96.5 space bucks. It's just ridiculous.
Doesn't awesome. Like he's trying to get to Kiss 98.5 back in Buffalo.
What are you even saving the other 4 space bucks for, man?
He's not, because it's going right up to 97 anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm gonna give 99 space bucks to Spaceballs. I don't know if it's absolutely perfect, but it's pretty fucking close.
I love its imperfections too, though. Yeah,
I think the difference between 99 and 100 is, again, the first world problem of them all, right? I mean, it's super awesome. Everyone can enjoy it. It's like, do you want Steve's with provolone? You want Steve's with whiz? You want Steve's with American? Either way, it's still Steve's. You're going to be very happy to eat that cheesesteak.
Yes, you are. It's going to be the highlight of your day.
Maybe life. They are life-changing cheesesteaks. It's hard to have a life-changing sandwich, but Steve's is a life-changing sandwich, I'm telling you.
I gotta
It
get
really
up there.
is.
Try that.
Before we figure out what we're watching next time, we need to replenish our sponge supply, and that means it's time for the questions 3.
Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3.
3 questions. What if you get a question wrong? Then you are cast into the gorge of eternal peril.
Ask me the questions. I am not afraid.
And we shall watch and pray.
Hear ye, hear ye. This is the questions 3, and here's how it works. This week, Jamie G has written the questions for the Soup Deucer and myself. You get 1 point for a correct answer. Whoever gets the most points wins. In the event of a tie, we'll have some tiebreakers. If those don't get it done, we will flip a coin. The winner gets a half a sponge, while Jamie G gets a half a sponge for writing the questions.
I love it. Soup, you're up first here. Number 1 question. Now, the greatest band in the history of the world, Fish, they've been known to cover a variety of songs. However, they've only covered this Bob Marley classic once. Which Bob Marley song am I talking about?
I don't know. 3 Little Birds.
3 Little Birds is his answer. And moving on to question 2. What was the name of Alanis Morissette's 1995 album that became a 90s anthem?
The name of the album? Is it Jagged Little Pill?
Is that your answer?
Yeah, I guess. I know I'm wrong out of the first one. I might be right on that one, though.
In what movie, question number 3, answer me. In what movie did Christian Slater play the character Jason Dean?
Heathers.
All right. He says Heathers. On to Magnum Mills here. Mills, are you ready?
I am ready, and I accept the challenge of the questions 3.
All right. A little bit different. Mills is usually the one asking them. Mills, who was the head coach of your Philadelphia Eagles, the Birds, during their first Super Bowl appearance? And in what year was this appearance?
So you can give me a 2-part question. I believe it was either like the 1979 season or the 1980 Super Bowl or whatever. Dick Vermeil?
Okay, so he says Dick Vermeil. And what year? You said 1979 or 1980?
1980.
Question number 2. Before they were the Clippers, they were the Buffalo Braves. Who was the first player inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame?
Bob McAdoo.
That was a Buffalo Brave. He says Bob McAdoo. Okay. And last but certainly not least, Mills, question 3, answer me. Who released the most albums as a solo artist out of all current, extended, the entire family of Wu-Tang Clan members?
Ghostface Killah.
Well, here's what we got. Soup Dukes. First question, he answered it with 3 Little Birds. That is incorrect. The correct answer is Trenchtown Rock. They've only ever played Trenchtown Rock once.
I know Trenchtown Rock. I don't know that I would have got that, but I know Trenchtown Rock.
Question number 2, he said Jagged Little Pill. That is correct. Alanis Morissette's classic album, Jagged Little Pill. Actually, the highest selling album of the entire 1990s. Mills, just wanted you to know that. Question number 3, what was the character Jason Dean? He said Heathers. That is correct. So we've got 2 points out of 3 going to the Soup. Mills, you said Dick Vermeil 1980. I'm going to give you a half point here because it was Dick Vermeil, but it was 1981. You almost got there. So that's really close. You deserve a half point for that. Bob McAdoo, yes, you were right. And you said Ghostface Killah. It was actually Ghostface Killah. You nailed that too. 2.5 points to the 2 points for Soup. I'm calling this one. It's done.
Oh, man, that's a kind of random, like, half joint, but you did give me a 2-part question, but you did not give him a 2-part question. Like, you can do multiple choice as long as you give the other guy a multiple choice. True, false, so I guess that's fair, but whatever.
Are you claiming unfair practices here, man, or whatever?
Nah, I don't want to like try to ice skate uphill. I've watched Blade enough to know that's not a good idea. So I do appreciate the winning, but not so much that I'm going to give a long speech or whatever. Jamie G, good job writing the questions. Appreciate it. You earned your half a sponge, and we'll keep the sponges going forth until the whole world is sponge worthy, or at least until a Martian comes down and Jay tries to have sex with it.
Well, you know, there could be killer clowns from
fuck
space.
the Martian, dude. Homeboy, fuck the Martian.
There he goes.
Could be killer clowns from space. I'd like to say it's all over, but we still must decide what we're going to watch next time. And I think we've just decided to go ahead and finally do 4 rooms. Been kicking the can down the road for a while here. After that, we'll do a repitch and then start a new cycle. So once again, this is your baby. So get us excited for 4 rooms. And whatever you do, don't misbehave.
I will most likely, almost undoubtedly, misbehave. But between now and then, what I will be is stoked about rewatching 4 rooms, because it's been a hot minute, man. And yes, I have pitched this probably more than once over the past couple of years with you guys, and finally that has come to fruition. Though I'm pretty stoked about it. So looking forward to that. In the meantime, I'm definitely looking forward to 4 Rooms, man, which is a masterpiece, a meld, I guess you could say, a collaboration of a couple different stories and minds and you know, different styles, man, and it all forms one thing. So it's a great one. Looking forward to talking about it in detail, and yeah, it's almost safer now without saying shit about the movie. So yes, good call. Let's go ahead and do it. We've been talking about it for a hot minute. We're ready. I'm ready.
We're doing it. We are paying our bills. We are, you know, pouring the soup into the bowl. We are doing the thing. And I think it'll be fun because, honestly, I'll watch Tim Roth on anything. He's one of those dudes for me. I will literally watch Tim Roth in anything. I'm still at like 10 star on my list or whatever. I enjoyed Lie to Me back in the day. Tim Roth is pretty awesome to me, and he's
so
the
good
thread through all of these that I'm willing to, you know, even if not all of them are the best, there are some good things in here to watch, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to look back on and channel it.
I'm excited too. I think it's be a good one. It's a classic. I've watched it a bunch, but it has been a few years, so excited to revisit it here. Thank you guys for checking out Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. We're still just regular dudes watching stuff and talking about it. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you got any thoughts or feedback, we'd love to hear it. Go ahead and hit us up on our social medias. You can slide Barry Bond style right into those DMs. Actually, I don't think Barry Bond slid much. Let's just say Pete Rose. Pete Rose right into the DMs. Mills, you're going to remind everyone where they can find us.
Yeah, really, because you don't want to go, you know, full Omar Epps, like just diving over Jack Parkman, like, sucker. But I love Major League too. And thank you for loving Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. Again, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, on social media, at Dudes Watch Stuff. Same place on the web, dudeswatchstuff.com. Simple to remember, just like the jam. Don't get jammed. Whether you like raspberry, whether you like strawberry, you'll like us. Thank you for remembering those flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. It's all we ask. If you had fun, give us that thumb. And I guess that means don't jam us, but maybe jam us just if that's your thing. Whatever. Do what you will with the jam, but please give us a thumb. I'm Magna Mills. He's Jamie G. That's a Soup Deucer. And we just did Spaceballs, the episode.
Thanks for jamming with us. We're all jammed, and we're covered in jammed. We'll see you next time right here on Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. We're just dudes being dudes, talking about the dude, El Duderino.
Dude.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Be with you.